All right, folks, welcome to the Monsters, Madness, and Magic podcast. I'm your host, Justin, here with a quick word before we dive in. Now, in this episode, I am joined by Angelique, and we chat with actor Ira Heiden about Elvira, Dokken, Dream Warriors, Freddy Krueger, Dungeons and Dragons, and more. As always, thank you all for listening out there. And without further ado, here you go. Take us back in time.
Yeah.
You're a youngster. Are you a book reader, fort builder, troublemaker, or all of the above?
Oh, fort builder and book reader, of course. So the first books that I really got into were J.R.R. Tolkien, Lord of the Rings. It was Gandalf. I was fascinated with. Pretty cool to be able to jump from reading that to playing the Wizard Master, in
Right.
Nightmare on Elm Street 3.
So if you had to say, categorize yourself, you have your jock and stuff, you would put yourself in the nerd category growing up.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I played a lot of sports growing up. I was always playing baseball and football and hockey and stuff like that. But yeah, I would definitely say I wasn't the jock type,
Mm.
but I was a very active kid.
Did you play D&D?
I did, and and I think that's how I ended up getting the role as Will Stanton. My cousin Rodney Davis had taught me how to play, and so we got the dice and got the board and everything, and I really enjoyed, taking you through the characters and hit points and all the different parts of that board game, and somehow I always made sure that I won. I would roll the dice twice, maybe three times.
Hey, the dungeon master makes the rules.
That's true.
That's right.
Yep. Nobody sees what happens behind the screen.
Mm-mm. Oh,
So,
that was it. That was a 20. What? I thought it was a 19. Nope, that was it.
Nope.
Oh, you got a 16. Sorry about that.
And then, of course, you add on your modifiers and everything else. So, I mean,
Hmm. Well, I really think that one of my favorite scenes from Nightmares for sure the when I'm playing D&D with Jennifer and Rodney, and I mean, so when I say you're being attacked by the bog demon, go ahead, roll the dice. I am playing Dungeons and Dragons there.
going off script.
nice.
So, Ira, when you think back to, formative films and TV shows that you grew up on, what comes to mind initially?
That I grew up on. So I was a big cartoon guy. Saturday mornings, it was always Bugs Bunny. It was Scooby Doo and stuff like that. And I think as far as like horror goes, like chiller theater. So yeah, definitely cartoons. Also like the Andy Griffith Show. My gosh, Fantasy Island, Z Plane. Um, Dukes of Hazzard. Dukes of Hazzard was always a really good one. A lot of the 70s TV
Mm.
was a big thing for me.
Whereabouts did you grow up?
I grew up in New York City.
Mm.
So I was born in the city, and then I lived in East Brunswick, New Jersey until I was about 8. And then we moved back into the city, which I deemed Middle East, 54th and 2nd, which has changed now. It's apparently like Billionaire Row. One of the coolest things was when we moved into the city, I lived in a building called, it was either the Bristol or the Brevard. It had 25 floors and we were on 11. And I always used to see this guy with his guitar, no makeup, but he would go all the way up to the 21st floor. And I came to realize later on that was Ace Frehley from Kiss.
Shit.
Whoa.
And I'm going to be doing Days of the Dead in Chicago in November. Guess who's going to be there?
Oh, there you go.
Nice.
Ace Frehley. I'm super excited because he probably saw me, didn't know who I was, but now he will.
Exactly. You gotta let him know.
Yeah.
So this segues perfectly. You just mentioned Kiss. Like, what other music did you grow up on? Like, what records were you spinning around the house?
Oh, definitely spinning Beatles. Beatles 24/7, huge Beatles fan. growing up, my mom and dad loved the Beatles, and so I got to listen to them. Some Barry White, some Boss Gags, and some some good 70s stuff. Some disco, some Bee Gees. There was because my mom and dad used to go to Studio 54, which was pretty big in the 70s. So yeah, there was a lot of that stuff running around. And then my very first concert, which I brought up today, as a matter of fact, was when I was 10. My dad took me to Central Park and I saw Neil Young,
That's a hell of a
Oh,
first show.
cool.
right? And from there I went from that to The Fix.
That's a jump.
Quite the jump. And then it was Rush. Interesting.
Seeing Rush back in the day, that's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was actually when I was living in Los Angeles already, it was Grace Under Pressure tour at the
Oh
Forum.
shit. Do you still go to a lot of shows?
Yeah. As much as I can. And I'm heading on Saturday to the Whiskey A Go Go to see Robbie Krieger play there. He is the guitarist for a band called The Doors. And that place is where they got known for they became the house band there. So
I was gonna
Robbie
say
is a
Whiskey
good buddy,
River.
and that's going to be exciting. So yeah, there's that. Oh wait, we did see, my wife and I saw Duran Duran
Oh,
at the
cool.
Hollywood Bowl last summer. Oh my God, that was awesome because I didn't catch them the first time around. Um, but then, so like growing up, also like when I moved from New York to Florida, and when I moved into Florida, it became all heavy metal. It became Dokken, it became Quiet Riot, it became Metallica, Def Leppard, stuff like that.
Florida will do that to you.
I was gonna say, yeah,
Yeah,
that's definitely a Florida influence there.
right. So so that was like a lot of heavy metal, and then I moved to LA, and my best friend Bill Allen and his brother took me to a concert which opened my mind at the Greek Theater, and it was Stevie Ray Vaughan opening up for Bonnie Raitt.
Damn, man. You're
Okay.
just listing off classics. So, what was the catalyst for you moving to LA? Was it to pursue acting or was it?
It was for sure to pursue acting. Yeah, definitely not a modeling career. I had done a lot of acting in high school and in middle school, and kind of grew up, trying to sing a little bit with my family, and they loved what I did, and they'd give me money. I was like, hey, wait a second, this is cool. That kind of broke me into the business, and my very first gig was in '85. I did a Pepsi commercial for the movies, which was with Johnny Depp, Sherilyn Finn, Brooke McCarter from Lost Boys, my best friend at the time who passed away, unfortunately, Harold P. Pruitt, China Phillips from Wilson and Phillips.
Mm.
So there were a lot of heavy hitters in that commercial. It was a lot of fun.
So it's fair to say, you were a drama slash theater kid growing up.
Yeah,
Do,
definitely.
do you remember your first time on stage?
Yeah, I was in third grade, and I think I played like an angel dude, and my cue was to come off stage right, but somehow I messed it up and came off stage left, and everybody laughed and clapped. So
You got to make the
it
best of it,
worked out.
right?
Yes, for sure. What about you guys? Have you ever done any theater or any in
Angelique
drama, anything?
has.
Yeah. My first time on stage, I recited The Raven, and I got really into it. My dad was in the audience, and he had never seen me perform, and I'm crying because I'm freaking out about the Raven over the door. And my dad like stood up out of his chair to come up to the stage to rescue me. My mom was like, "Sit down."
You're doing a good job.
Oh man,
Yeah. And
the
I did some
Raven.
musical theater. I was Queen Agravain and Once Upon a Mattress, and did some community theater up in Tennessee, and now I just do
Oh,
voice stuff. So
yeah. Same here. Most of my work right now is voice as well. I love, like, I did these mini Stay Puft characters for Ghostbusters, the last
yeah,
one that just came out. It
yeah.
was a lot of fun. Jason Reitman directing. It was one of the best experiences I had in my life, listening to him and having him lead us and play these insanely crazy, quizzical marshmallow mini Stay Puft characters.
How did you break into the voice side of things, Ira? Was it just natural?
Yeah, I mean, I got lucky again. These group of friends that I had been working with on, gosh, I did a thing called I was a soda pop kid in a Disney special, and I met this guy Billy Jacoby, who's now Billy Jane, and his mom was his manager, and she put a lot of people in voice work and stuff, and so she hired us to do what you call ADR work, and that's like background voices in the movie, so it's behind the main characters, and so I got to do 2 days on Dead Poets Society.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That was my very first ADR voice work job. And oh my God, it was so much fun to do. And I tried to continue to do it. And so far, I've been lucky enough to keep it going.
That is my favorite movie, Dead Poet Society.
Yep.
Angelique and I have interviewed Tom Schulman, who wrote the movie.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
was
that
that was a big one.
Mhm.
That's a heavy hitter right there.
I was very
He was
nervous.
so nice. He was
Yeah.
so nice.
I'm sure you guys did great. I actually listened to the Jennifer Rubin podcast I didn't finish it, but I was, just kind of brushing up on your questions and stuff. So it was cool.
Yeah, Jennifer's great.
Yes, she is.
So, Ira, during your time on stage, did you have any favorite roles to play? Are there any that stick out to you, close to your heart?
Absolutely. I think one of my smaller roles, but my most favorite because it's working with my favorite comedian of all time. I got to play a stock boy in a movie called Father of the Bride with
Yes.
Steve Martin. Um, I grew up with Steve Martin, and he was my favorite comedian. Like I said before, wild and crazy guy. Uh, he was like just made me laugh so hard. So getting to work with him was for sure a big hit and a big joy. And also, my first line in the movie is, "Excuse me, sir, what are you doing?" And I don't know if you guys remember, like he used to do this whole tyrant on Saturday Night Live, and then he would end with, "Well, excuse me." Well, I thought I was going to be funny on set, and it's basically 7 o'clock in the morning. We're running through rehearsal. It's the first time I'm meeting Steve, and he comes and shakes my hand, and the director goes, "Okay, let's just run through this." And so he goes, "Action," and I scream at the top of my lungs, "Excuse me!" Basically, that's what I got. Crickets. Nothing. I got a smirk from Steve Martin, and then somebody on the megaphone said, "Back to one." So I did my line the right way next time.
I would have done the same thing.
Look, you got to try, right?
Yeah, you got to take your shot.
You only have that one chance, like Eminem, So there's that movie, but I mean, come on, the other two major classics that are heavy in my heart are Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, Dream Warriors, and Elvira, Mistress of the Dark.
Two classics. Ira, just with a Dream Warrior specifically, was the audition typical? What do you remember about it?
Yeah, it was. So I had just signed with this manager, Marilyn Sherman, who had found Forrest Whitaker, Jimmy Smits, Bill Allen from Rad, another one of my really good friends. So I got the call for the audition, and I had seen the first one, not the second one. I saw the first Nightmare in Florida in high school with my buddies, and I got to tell you guys, I'm not a big horror fan. I was always scared of horror movies growing up and everything, but I was excited to get to play it because it said that the character plays D&D. I was like, oh my God, that's me. So I pre-read first for Annette Benson, the casting director, and she liked what I did. And so she put some, and then Chuck had me come in and reread a couple of times. And at one point, I think even had me read Rodney's part, Joey, to the role of Joey, because he had a lot of nurses coming in. So that was a lot of fun to get to do that. But by far, it's the movie that I had to audition for the most. I think I had 4 callbacks. I remember when I did Elvira, we had like one big callback, and that was like about an hour and a half to 2 hours of them pairing different group of kids and stuff. Yeah, that was a crazy thing. And then I'll never forget my manager saying, "Well, kid, you got the role."
So, do you remember the first scene you shot on the movie?
Yeah, the first scene was the group therapy scene, I do believe, and we're all in the room, and that's when they say straight talk only in here, and so that was an exciting scene, nerve-wracking because, like I said, it was the opening, first time movie I'd ever done, so that was my first big scene, and of course Jennifer Rubin yells at me and Ken Sagos yells and saying that I took a jump and not a hard ass. Yeah, it was a lot of bee smoke. I remember a lot of coughing, um, tight quarters because we shot a lot of the stuff in Westwood at the veterans at the VA hospital, and we used a lot of the rooms in the back buildings that hadn't been used in years. So it was almost as if they were eerie enough. You didn't have to add any special effects. So I think that was the first scene.
And just hearing you talk about how, how you kind of relate to Will, Jennifer said the same thing with her character, how she kind of grew up being kind of afraid of hospitals and such and needles and everything. It's just kind of weird how you all seem to have this little connection with your characters.
I honestly think that helped us get the parts, one of the things when I was auditioning for Nightmare, I had known Bradley Gregg before. We used to hang out at this thing called the Alfie Hoffman Soda Pop Club. It was the Alfie Soda Pop Club. So you had like Scott Grimes, you had Jason Lively, you had P. Pruitt, you had Corey Feldman, you had Corey Haim, Bradley Gregg, all these kids that were hanging out. Well, so there used to be a restaurant called Sushi on Sunset, and Bradley was there one night. I said, "Oh, dude, I just auditioned for this movie. You would be perfect for this role." So he called his manager, and he got the audition the next day. Um, I think, again, going back to what you were saying, yeah, there was a lot of parts that we played that were inside us.
You said that you watched the first Nightmare on Elm Street while you were in high school, but after Dream Warriors is over, when did you become aware just how popular that one specifically was?
I think I realized how big that movie was going to be when I was in St. Augustine, Florida. We'd finished when I right before I finished that movie, I auditioned for a movie to play Rob Lowe's brother called Illegally Yours that Peter Bogdanovich was directing, and I got the call that I got the part. So we were shooting for like 3 months in St. Augustine, Florida, and I couldn't make it to the premiere for Nightmare in LA. So a bunch of the cast members and I went to go see the movie when it came out, and I had never seen a theater so packed in my life, and it was really cool. And I got to work in Illegally Yours with Kim Myers, who was in Nightmare 2. And
Mm.
so we all went to check it out. And after the movie, some little teenager girl recognized me, and she's like, "I cried when you died."
Yeah.
I I think it was like that was the eye-opening experience of like, oh my gosh, wait, this is going to be big.
Yeah, Will's is, in my opinion, it's the worst death because you see, this guy who's in a wheelchair, he finally gets to stand up in his dreams, and Freddy just fucks it all up.
Every time I see Robert, I just tell him, I said, I had my chance, man. I should have never ran at you. That was my problem. I should have just stayed where I was and zapped the hell out of him.
Yeah, you could tell maybe the person who wrote that specifically was not a D&D player because mages are range.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I understand if like I had like if I had a mace, like a mace things that I had to circle around and try to use chains to
Nope.
to get rid of him. But
Magic missile.
when you have the power in the hands, yeah, it's like, come on. In the name of Lorik, Prince of Elves, demon be gone. Pew! I should have killed him, and I remember Chuck Russell telling me that the editors, when they were editing the movie, said that, a lot of people are going to be very pissed that they killed me. So,
Oh yeah, I was
We
rooting
were.
for you the whole time. Like I wanted you to be one of the ones that made it, you know?
yeah.
Yeah, as someone who played D&D, read J.R. Tolkien, and absolutely a nerd, I was extremely pissed when Will died.
Well, we might be bringing him back. You never know.
You never know. So, Ira, what was your first impression of Robert England?
So, Robert was like the smartest guy and also a wise ass and just cracked jokes and was hysterical to be on set with. I felt bad for him because there's so many hours he was just in the makeup.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean that was a lot of work. But I remember my first my death scene. I remember talking to Robert, and I'm trying to get into my um acting, death mode, work on like my character, and I'm gonna die. And I have Robert sitting in his chair right next to me, cracking jokes, laughing, um, telling me that he just bought a house in Laguna Beach and he's going to be driving his convertible Mustang. I'm like, Robert, I'm about to die. I need to work on my character here.
Yeah.
So he was very fun.
It's funny, just before you came in here, Angelique and I were talking about the Elvira film as well. How did that happen for you? Was that as well a typical audition?
Yeah, I mean, I had gotten again the call from my manager, and so I went and auditioned, and then I got the call back. That was my first like cattle call, as far as like I said, they were mixing and matching a lot of kids together, and Cassandra was there, so we would read with her. And then I remember they gave us an hour lunch. So in the weirdest coincidence, ended up taking a lunch with Chris Cam, who had just moved out here from Minnesota. So we hopped in his Jeep and grabbed like Subway or something. And then we came back, but started talking a bunch. And so we actually went back in there together. And, lo and behold, he and I ended up getting the job with Scott and Ellen. Um, it was a lot of fun. Cassandra is by far one of the coolest chicks. Um, Down to earth, so much fun. I clearly remember one of my first times, earliest calls, like 5 o'clock in the morning, going onto the Warner Brothers set, and I'm going over to craft services to grab a cup of coffee, and there's a trailer, big trailer, and I mean Guns N' Roses is blasting at 5 o'clock in the morning. Whose trailer is it? Cassandra's. She loves her rock and roll.
Got to get in the mood.
Yeah. Oh
Oh
man,
yeah.
I watched that movie so many times. I spent summers with my grandparents in a tiny, tiny town in Georgia called Soperton. And there was the pharmacy that also had some VHS rentals, and they happened to have Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. And I almost broke the tape. Like I would rent that thing every other day and just watch the hell out of it.
If you really think about it, I mean, James Signorelli, the director who has directed so many Saturday Night Lives, you know, the cast, the crew, the writing in that film is just hysterical. Oh, Elvira, how's your head? No complaints so far.
That's right.
Um, I mean, we're building the house and fixing it up, and Cassandra and I are right next to each other, and she sees some other helpers coming over, and she's like, "Hey, grab a tool and start banging," and she starts shaking her butt. Um, the one-liners are hysterical. Oh, I never, and yeah, you never will, sister, with your hair like that. I mean, there's so many great lines, and if you watch that beginning scene after that the hood falls off of her car, um, Cassandra's parents are actually in the background.
Yeah, I
They were
heard
part of the
that.
townspeople.
To
Yeah.
this day, gazungas is my preferred nomenclature.
Oh my God. Did you see the size of those gazungas? It's funny because that's what I sign a lot on the 8x10s, because I go to a lot of these horror conventions, and there's a lot of Elvira fans. So yes, but I always want to make sure I spell it the right way. Gazungas.
Yeah.
Just real quick, Ira, did you ever get a chance to meet Dokken?
Oh, yes, I did. So, okay, two stories. One, we're on the set of Nightmare on Elm Street working, and they are Nikki Marvin is our music supervising producer. And so she kind of came up to a bunch of people and she's like, "We're looking into getting a couple of bands for the soundtrack. We're looking at Mesmer Marillion and Dokken." And I like shouted out, Dokken, this is a no-brainer. You have to go Dokken.
Yeah.
I mean, they are rock. It's like rock will go great with horror. And I'm so thankful that she took my advice. Um, so that was, that was my first intro into getting Dokken because clearly it's because of me that Dokken got on the movie. Um, then I went to go to see like Dokken and Metallica at the Coliseum, but I never got to get backstage and I never got to meet them. Bummer. So, cut to, okay, this is really weird though. Today is Don Dokken's 70th birthday. So, cut to about 8 years ago, my wife and I are on a date at a place called Vibratos. It's this jazz place up in Beverly Hills
Mm.
that Herb Alpert owns. And so we're sitting next to this dude, and everybody knows him. Everyone's walking by, and hey Don, hey Don, and it kind of clicked as we're talking to him. Like, wait a second, are you Don Dokken? He goes, yeah. Oh my God, dude, I was in Nightmare 3, and then we started talking about that. And he's like, oh, dude, well, we did that music video with Patricia Arquette. Oh man, it was so much fun. That's not exactly what he said, but
I got an idea.
it was so cool. Yeah, and then I got to meet George Lynch at a signing here at Dark Delicacies in the Valley, in Burbank. So those are the two times that I got to meet Duckin.
Obviously, Nightmare is a huge hit in the convention scene. When did all that start up for you? Was that like in the late 90s?
Good question. So literally, my very first call was from Rodney Eastman. He had just gotten back with a bunch of the other Dream Warriors from New Jersey. I forgot what horror convention that was, but he said, "You have to do these. Oh my God, it's amazing." So that was in 2008.
Oh,
So that was the beginning of when I started. It was actually, yeah, 3 weeks after my son was born. I went to my first horror convention. Bye, honey, I'm out of here. Um, and oh my gosh, Justin, Angelique, I had no idea how great this movie had become and how iconic and the classicness of it all. Um, all the fans that would be there and we would do these panels and I mean thousands of people. It's crazy. And it's really made me realize what a great opportunity I had and so glad I nailed the part.
you did. That you did. Have you had much interaction with Chuck Russell since those days?
I have. 3 years ago, Chuck and I have always kept in touch. That's one thing about me is I do keep in touch with everybody. 2 days ago, I spoke to Heather Lagenkamp.
Mm.
Um, so about 3 years ago in September, Heather and I put together a reading of Dream Warriors, and it was at the Whiskey A Go Go. And we charged money and we raised almost $17,000 for mental health awareness
Wow.
through this great, great suicide prevention center called the Didi Hirsch Suicide Center. And because I'm friends with Robbie Krieger, he donated a signed guitar, which we got $5,000 for. Um, well, we had Chuck do the reading, so he did all the words in between, so all the stage direction. So Chuck did it. Robert England was there, Heather Lagenkamp, Rodney Eastman, Penelope Sudrow, Bradley Gregg. The only bummer was Ken Sagos and Jennifer were in Minnesota doing our convention.
Mm.
The same one that Heather was at, but Heather left to come and do the reading. Um,
Gotcha.
so we had some people from Four do the reading. So Brooke Bundy. Well, no, Brooke Bundy was in ours. Brooke from Four was in the reading. She played Jennifer's role, and then we had Tuesday night She played Kristen.
This is something I like to ask everyone, Ira, just because you never know what they're going to say.
Uh-oh.
Have you ever had
I didn't do it.
Have you ever had an experience that you would consider supernatural or paranormal?
There was some time when we were on the set of Nightmare on Elm Street 3, and it was just really creepy because we did night shoots, and Bradley and I were talking about this the other day, how there was just this one corridor, and it was just very strange because we heard like barking dogs, and we heard like different noises, and honestly, there was nobody there. I don't know if it was spirits that were there before, so there's that. And also something that happened to me when I lived in Florida, I noticed my curtains were moving, and it was at nighttime, and we didn't have the air conditioning on or anything, so I thought, well, something's in here. And so that scared the crap out of me too, by the way. What about you? Come on, any paranormal?
Well, I
Angelique,
live in the most haunted city in the United States, so I I see ghosts all the time, literally.
and she lives in
Right
Savannah.
on.
It's graveyard upon graveyard.
Actually,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
last week I worked the ghost tours at night, and I shot a couple of pictures in Colonial Park Cemetery. It's the oldest cemetery in Georgia, and I caught a figure just standing there staring at us. So
Oh wait, you know what? Also, when I was at Disneyland and in the haunted mansion, there were three ghosts behind me at the end.
That counts.
That does count, doesn't it?
That does count.
That's
I'm
that's
counting.
my favorite ride, by the way.
love it.
So, Ira, out of all the projects you've worked on, whether it's theater, voice, screen, which project would you consider the most challenging as the one that you lost sleep over?
The most challenging, I think it was Nightmare 3 because A, it was my first movie. B, I had a lot of lines to learn, and C, getting to work in a wheelchair, and having to become that character, that guy. It was a lot. And, they had given me the props had given me the wheelchair 2 weeks before we started shooting just so that I can kind of get used to it. And Buddy and I went through Westwood, and, I'm just trying to get used to it and stuff. And it was just the reactions of people. A lot of people were like, "Oh my God, let me get that door for you." And then some people would be like, just turn their heads, because they didn't want to know what was going on. Um, there was a place called the Recorder Star, which my friend Pruitt had a buddy that worked there, John Schmidt, and so he said, "Hey, let's go in and goof on this guy." So I roll up in my wheelchair, and Harold goes, "Hey, John, this is Ira. Ira, this is John. Hey, John, how are you?" He's like, "Oh, I'm good. Nice to meet you." And I say, "Dude, I have to go pee really bad. Do you guys have a bathroom?" And he's like, "Yeah, we do, but it's upstairs." And I look at him, I go, "Really?" And then I got out of my wheelchair and walked up the stairs. He had no idea that I wasn't in a wheelchair.
Did it take you a good bit to get used to being in the wheelchair so much?
Yeah, of course, because you got to realize, you can't use your legs. You
Mm-hmm.
can't do anything like that. You have to take on that character.
So speaking of that, Ira, what would you say is the best acting advice you've received, and who gave it to you?
So when I first moved to LA, my stepfather was working as a stage manager on Entertainment Tonight. And so I got to go on the Paramount lot, and I got to walk around and check out the different stages and stuff. And lo and behold, walking right by me is Henry Winkler. And I had just got into acting. And I was like, Mr. Winkler, hey, do you have any advice? And he said, yes, do. Study with that person or that group for a year. Move on. Find another person to learn from. Learn from anybody you can, and take great direction when you're on set. So that was the very first, and I held that to
That's a
me.
good.
So
The Fonz is a good person to listen to.
Yeah.
hey,
Hey.
Well, I just got a couple more here for you, Ira, before we let you go. Have you seen any good movies lately?
well, let's see. Lately, what did we just watch? I'm dying to see Mission Impossible 6. I cannot wait to see the new Indiana Jones. Are you guys Mission Impossible fans at
Mission
all, or
Impossible, the most recent one, is just as good as the original.
I'm more of an Indiana
so
Jones girl. So
right on? So I know that Tom Cruise did his stunts in that, and I don't know if you've seen the one where he's on the motorcycle and takes off,
Mm-hmm.
and he had to do that 6 times. I'm excited to see that movie. I think it'll be great. But yeah, I think Top Gun Maverick was the last really good movie I saw.
Save
I think
theaters.
it's yeah, for sure. I mean, that was an awesome movie to go out and go and check out.
Well, before we let Ira go, Angelique, do you have anything for him?
sure. I like to ask this of our guests. What is your go-to movie snack that makes your movie watching experience just perfect?
Oh, well, without a doubt, it's salty, crappy popcorn, and you throw raisinets in there.
Ooh, Raisinets. Okay. Okay. I like M&Ms in mine sometimes. So
All
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go that route. I'm going raisinets.
Okay.
Well, Ira, just to put a bow on everything here, is there anything on the horizon for you that you can share without getting in trouble?
There are, my gosh. Well, first and foremost, I'm producing a documentary about a really good friend of mine. I don't know if you guys know that Brandon Lee was a pal of mine. We played racquetball together. We went mountain bike riding together. We spent well only 4 years, but it was a strong 4 years together. So we have a documentary coming out. Not sure exactly when, but it has lots of great things, great interviews, like Melissa Etheridge, John Lee Hancock, Mike Simpson, some of his agents, a lot of his friends, his best friend Bill Allen. So there's that is closer to being done, which is great. And also, Bill wrote a movie about it in his own experience, and it's co-written also by Lou Diamond Phillips. So we're currently trying to secure financing for that, and we're getting close. And Robbie Krieger is our executive producer and our musical director, and he graciously wrote a song already, "The Raven, the Crow, and the Dragon," and it was finished last week. And it was with Robbie wrote the lyrics, Robbie sang it, played guitar. Rami Jaffe from the Wallflowers and now currently out with the Foo Fighters. He did keyboards. Um, Dan Rothschild, whose father was Paul Rothschild, for who produced all the Doors albums and also Janis Joplin. He did bass and also mix and background vocals. And then we also had gosh, the guy from Ozo Motley, and I'm spacing on his name right now. He did drums on it. So that's kind of in the can already, which is great. So we're looking to do that. So all of this can be found if you guys post on my website. I've got LinkedIn, whatchamacallit, Instagram, the real Ira Heiden, REEL, and kind of a play on words there.
Gotcha. It's been a pleasure talking to you, man.
That wasn't good. Sorry,
Hey, our
guys.
motto is we'll fix it in post.
We'll fix it in post. Don't worry about it.
Exactly. Awesome.
Ira, it's been a pleasure, man. Thank you for giving us some of your time.
Cool. Of course.
I'll send you a link to this
Hey,
one.
you started following. Okay, cool.
All right. Bye bye, man.
Bye.
Bye. Take it easy, guys.
Take care.